guys, welcome or welcome back to my channel. This is more out. So I'm going to be reading Growing Up Pedro by Matt Tavares. I'm going to show you something really cool about this book jacket in the actual book. So this is about how the Martinez brothers made it from the Dominican Republic all the way to the major leagues. I'm going to read the front flap and the back flap. We'll do the back first about the author, Matt Tavares. Matt Tavares is the author illustrator of Henry Aaron's Dream, There Goes Ted Williams, and Becoming Babe Ruth, as well as Zachary's Ball, Oliver's Game, and Mudball. He is the illustrator of 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, Over the River and Through the Woods, Lady Liberty by Doreen Rappaport, The Gingerbread Pirates by Kristen Cladstrup, and Jubilee by Alicia Potter. Matt Tavares lives in Algonquin, Maine. And so, before Pedro Martinez pitched the Red Sox to a World Series championship, before he was named to the All-Star team 8 times, before he won the Cy Young Award 3 times, he was a kid from a place called Guayabo in the Dominican Republic. Pedro loved baseball more than anything, and his older brother Ramon was the best pitcher he'd ever seen. He dreamed of the day he and his brother could play together in the major leagues. This is the story of how that dream came true. Matt Tavares has crafted a fitting homage to a modern-day baseball star that examines both his improbable rise to the top of his game and the power that comes from the deep bond between brothers. One moment. I had to pause the video a moment to get a drink of water. So there's some people that are laughing outside. Okay, I think that the group of girls having a super big laugh have moved far enough. So, first page it says, Ramon is the biggest reason I have gotten where I am. He is the great one in this family. I am still Ramon's little brother. Pedro Martinez, 1998. Oh, let me show you the book jacket thing. It's really cool. So this is the book. Actually, I'll just leave the book jacket off while I read it. But this is the book. This is the cover without the book jacket. This is him back in the day in El Barrio. And then on the back, that's the brothers older, which on the book cover, it's opposite. This is Pedro older, and that's them younger. So I thought that was really interesting. I like that. Let's just appreciate that. Looks like he's throwing like a fruit of sorts. I don't know. It doesn't quite look like a regular type of ball, and this is definitely like a small country town, kind of like where my family's from in Puerto Rico. I can't control the people outside who are laughing right now. Okay, so Growing Up Pedro by Matt Tavares. The Dominican Republic, 1981. One day, in the village of Guayabo, Pedro Martinez sits in the shade and watches the older boys play. He wants to play too. But his big brother Ramon says he is too little. The boys are using a hard ball, and Ramon says it's too dangerous. Pedro is mad, but he knows Ramon is just looking out for him. Ramon is always looking out for Pedro. Despite his anger, Pedro watches Ramon pitch. He is the greatest pitcher Pedro has ever seen. Okay, so I got that background noise, which I'm assuming was audible, of like a video game. I got that figured, so that shouldn't be an issue anymore. Pedro has three. Pedro has 3 brothers and 2 sisters. Ramon, the oldest, is the baseball star of the family. Pedro wishes he were tall like Ramon. He wishes he could throw hard like Ramon. He spends hours out behind the little shack where they live, throwing rocks at the mango trees. He tries to hit only the ripe ones, just like Ramon taught him. Pedro loves playing baseball. He dreams that someday he and his brothers will play together in the major leagues. At night, they lie awake, two to a mattress, and talk about what they will do when they are millionaires. It's them laying at night, think about the future. By the time Ramon is 15, he is pitching against grown men in games around Santo Domingo. Sometimes Pedro walks for miles just to watch him pitch. At 16, Ramon is the youngest player on the Dominican Republic national team. The Los Angeles Dodgers offer him a contract. They pay him $5,000. Not much by big league standards, but more money than the Martinez family has ever seen. Ramon uses some of the money to buy his little brother Pedro his first real baseball gloves. In 1984, when Pedro is 12, Ramon starts training at Campo Las Palmas, the Dodgers Dominican Baseball Academy, a 2-hour bus ride from Manoguayabo. Every chance he gets, Pedro tags along. Sometimes, he even gets to play catch with Ramon on the field before practice. For Pedro, it is like a dream. He can't believe he is on real baseball fields with real professional ball players. He is so proud of his big brother. One day, a coach for the Dodgers watches Pedro pitching to Ramon. The coach tells Pedro that if he works hard, maybe someday the Dodgers will sign him too. See him here. That's Pedro. In 1985, days before his 17th birthday, Ramon leaves for his first season in America. Pedro is so happy for Ramon, but it breaks his heart to see him go. Now that Ramon is gone, Pedro is more determined than ever to make it to the major leagues. Every day he practices and practices. For Ramon, adjusting to life in America was not easy. When his team stops to eat at a restaurant, he doesn't know what to order because all the menus are in English. He can't talk to anyone. Ramon tells Pedro all about it. He wants to make sure that when it's Pedro's turn, his little brother is ready. Pedro keeps practicing and he starts studying English every day. In 1988, when he is 16, Pedro is back at Campo Las Palmas. He is ready to try out for the Dodgers. Dozens of other boys are trying out too. Most of them are much bigger and stronger than Pedro. He works hard and does his best, but the Dodger scouts aren't sure. He is still so much smaller than Ramon. They worry that he just isn't big enough to make it in professional baseball. Finally, after a 30-day tryout, the Dodgers decide to give Pedro a chance. They pay him $6,500. He gives all the money to Ramon. Saying goodbye to his family here. And here it looks like he's getting interviewed. In 1990, the Dodgers assigned Pedro to their minor league team in Great Falls, Montana. Pedro says goodbye to his family and leaves for America. By now, Ramon is a star in the big leagues, the ace of the Los Angeles Dodgers. In 1990, he wins 20 games and is the runner-up for the National League Cy Young Award. Some of Pedro's teammates in the minors think Pedro is only there because he is the great Ramon Martinez's little brother. Pedro works hard to prove that he belongs. He keeps working on his English too. During long bus rides, he stares out the window and tries to read every road sign. He learns new words every day. Before long, he can do post-game interviews in English without an interpreter. He's putting on his uniform, his baseball outfit. Pedro races his way up through the Dodgers minor league system. Then, in September 1992, his dream comes true. For the first time in his life, Pedro gets to play on the same team as his big brother. Pedro and Ramon are in the major leagues together. Pedro is so small and skinny that when he arrives at Dodger Stadium, the security guard doesn't believe he is actually on the team. "Hey, who are you?" he asks. Pedro smiles. "I'm the bat boy," he says. The security guard isn't the only one who thinks Pedro is too small. The Dodgers manager, Tommy Lasorda, doesn't think Pedro is big enough to make it as a starting pitcher. So Pedro pitches out of the bullpen and quickly becomes one of the best relievers in the league. He's pitching. After the 1993 season, Pedro gets a call from the general manager of the Dodgers. He can't believe the news. He has been traded to the Montreal Expos. At first, Pedro is devastated. He doesn't want to leave Ramon and move to a new city where he doesn't know anybody. He's worked so hard to learn English, but most people in Montreal speak French. Ramon calms Pedro down. He tells his little brother that maybe this could be good for him. The Dodgers were never going to let him be a starting pitcher. Maybe in Montreal, he'll get his chance. The Dodgers. Oh, it turns out that Ramon is right. Pedro goes to Montreal in 1994 and immediately joins the starting rotation. Every time he takes the mound, he remembers everyone who doubted him. With every pitch, he tries to prove them wrong. See that look of determination on his face? Concentration. Whenever the Expos play the Dodgers and Ramon pitches against Pedro's new team, Pedro can't help but cheer for his big brother. When his teammates ask him to knock it off, Pedro sneaks down to the clubhouse and watches Ramon on TV. On August 29, 1996, Pedro and Ramon are scheduled to pitch against each other. Pedro does not want to do it. He never wants to root against Ramon. Ramon explains to Pedro that it's just something they've got to do. Pedro and Ramon both pitch well. As Ramon takes the mound in the ninth inning, with the Dodgers leading 2-1, he sees Pedro in the Expos dugout. Pedro smiles, relieved that it's almost over and happy to lose to his big brother. So he's putting up his hat over here, and this is his big brother. So this is Ramon and this is Pedro. By 1997, you guys pitching. And here they show you like different ways of like holding the ball, or like different angles of holding the ball. By 1997, Pedro is the best pitcher at the National League, even better than Ramon. He can throw a 97-mile-per-hour fastball, a curveball that makes hitters' knees buckle, and a changeup that is almost impossible to hit. Pedro is a superstar now. The Expos know they can't afford to pay him. So a week after he wins the 1997 National League Cy Young Award, they trade him to the Boston Red Sox. Hey, Boston Red Sox. In December, Pedro flies to Boston and signs a 6-year, $75 million contract with the Red Sox, making him the highest paid baseball player of the time. This is outside of Fenway Park. This right here is like the outside of Fenway Park, pre COVID, because it's not that packed like that anymore. In the summer of 1998, on days when Pedro pitches, the streets of Boston buzz with anticipation. By game time, Fenway Park is packed. Fans wave Dominican flags and chant his name, Pedro, Pedro, Pedro. But 1998 is not a good year for Ramon. Pitching for the Dodgers on June 14th, he tears a muscle in his shoulder. The team doctor tells him he needs surgery. Ramon worries that he might never pitch again. Pedro tells his big brother not to give up. After his operation on June 30th, Ramon spends the rest of the season working to rebuild the strength in his injured shoulder and watching his little brother on television. Look at Pedro Martinez right here. On days when it's not his turn to pitch, Pedro never stops talking and dancing and laughing and joking with his teammates, as we can see here. I don't know what this is, but it looks very funny. One night, to get him to settle down, so he's taped to a pole, and it says here that one night, to get him to settle down, his teammates tape him to a pole in the dugout. Pedro loves every minute of it. But when it is his turn to pitch, Pedro is very serious. All day he is quiet and focused. When he takes the mound, he imagines he is a lion fighting for his food. In 1999, Pedro has one of the greatest seasons any pitcher has ever had. He wins 15 games before the All-Star break. He's the starting pitcher in the All-Star game and dazzles the home crowd at Fenway Park by striking out 5 of the 6 batters he faces. Meanwhile, Ramon is working hard to get back on the field. Late in the 1999 season, he makes it all the way back to the major leagues and joins Pedro on the Red Sox. During games, they sit together in the dugout. They coach each other and they help each other. With his big brother by his side, Pedro is better than ever. He got his major support, of course, you know. Victory. On October 9th, 1999, with the Red Sox facing elimination from the playoffs, Ramon leads the team to victory over the Cleveland Indians to keep Boston's season alive. 2 days later, in the final game of the series, Pedro's right shoulder is so sore he isn't supposed to pitch. But with the score tied 8-8 in the 4th inning, he enters the game. Even though he can't lift his arm up high enough to throw a good fastball, he pitches 6 no-hit innings to send the Red Sox to the American League Championship Series. See, he's super determined. He's like, I'm gonna do it even though I can't do it at my best, and he got them through, even though he was told no, you're too hurt. So, back in the Dominican Republic, people dance in the streets. Kids tie scraps of metal to their bikes and ride through the darkness. Sparks light up the night like fireworks. So they tied it to the back of the bike so that when they're riding it, creates the sparks. After the season, Pedro celebrates with his family. The little shack is gone now. Pedro and Ramon bought all the land around it and built this special place where the whole family can come together. They call it La Finca, the little farm. After dinner, Pedro and Ramon walk out back to throw rocks at the mango tree. Together, they hit one mango after another. Pedro hits only the ripe ones, just like Ramon taught him. Oh, and that's the end. So this is an author's note. I'm going to read the author's note. Pedro and Ramon played together for one more season in Boston. In 2001, Ramon retired from baseball. Pedro kept on playing for the Red Sox. Every day, fans would tell him how long they had waited to see their Red Sox win the World Series. They believed that with Pedro on their team, it was finally going to happen. But every season, even with the best pitcher in baseball, the Red Sox kept falling short. Then, in 2004, for the first time in 86 years, the Red Sox finally won it. The city threw a parade to celebrate, and more than 3 million people crowded the streets of Boston to cheer for Pedro and the Red Sox. As a lifelong Red Sox fan, so many of the fondest baseball memories are of watching Pedro Martinez pitch. Once I spent the whole night outside Fenway Park in hopes of getting tickets to see Pedro pitch in game 3 of the 1999 American League Championship Series. When morning came, I got 2 tickets. I called my dad and he joined me for the game that afternoon. Pedro did not disappoint. He struck out 12 and allowed only 2 hits in 7 dominant innings, leading the Sox in a 13-1 victory over the Yankees. And if you know anything about baseball, you know that the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees are one of the biggest rivals that there are in the MLB, Major League Baseball. Red Sox and Yankees are rivals. Must have been a really good game. The following spring, I sat in the upper deck at Old Yankee Stadium and watched Pedro outduel Roger Clemens 2-0 in the only ball game I have ever attended where I didn't leave my seat once during the whole game because I didn't want to miss a single moment. Pedro was a small man pitching in an era where hitters were bigger and stronger than ever. He was fearless on the mound, staring down muscle-bound sluggers and making them look like little leaguers. Back then, I didn't know much about him beyond what I saw on the field and what I heard in his always entertaining post-game interviews. But when I started researching his life, I learned that there was so much more to Pedro's story. I learned all about the work he has done for the people in his hometown of Manoguayabo. When he made it to the big leagues and became a millionaire, he could have left his past behind, but he stayed in Manoguayabo and donated his time and money to help improve the lives of the people there, especially the children. He convinced the government to pave the main road. He built houses, churches, baseball fields, and a new elementary school, and he started academic programs. Pedro Martinez overcame so many obstacles on his way to big league stardom, from the poverty of his childhood to the fact that many people told him he was too small to succeed in the major leagues. Through it all, he worked hard and persevered and turned himself into one of the greatest pitchers of all time. But Pedro didn't do it alone. Whenever he faced hard times along the way, it was always his big brother, Ramon, who helped him through. Whether it was teaching him how to throw a curveball, encouraging him to study English, or inspiring him not to give up on his dream, even when it seemed impossible. So the K is the baseball symbol for a strikeout. And this is Pedro Martinez's stats and the teams he's played for. So he's played for the LA Dodgers, the Montreal Expos, the Boston Red Sox, the New York Mets, and the Philadelphia Phillies. So let's see. I'm not going to read his whole thing here because that's a lot of numbers, but that's basically like his performance on the teams in the years. So his height is 5'11". He weighed 170 pounds, born October 25th, 1971, in Manoguayabo, Dominican Republic. He played 18 years of baseball, guys. He played baseball for 18 years. He was on Boston for the most. So he was in the Phillies for 1 year, in the New York Mets for 4 years, Boston Red Sox for 7 years, Montreal Expos for 4, and LA Dodgers for 2. So that's all, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this story. I hope you learned more about Pedro Martinez and his background, and Ramon Martinez and their background as brothers and as family, and starting from literally the bottom and rising to the top, and then showing that with those newfound resources we can help and pass it forward and give back to our roots and to things that we care and love for the betterment of everyone. So that's all, guys. I wish you all good night and have a good sleep. Sleep well. Don't let the ladybugs bite. Sweet dreams. Till later. Hit the subscribe button if you'd like to. If you like watching my videos, I post these type of content. I like to read soft spoken or do some tarot or oracles. So stay tuned. Leave a like. Subscribe if you want to. And lots of love and light and blessings. Peace out, guys. Till later.